Hey folks, welcome to Unqualified, the fantasy football podcast that's been enabling you to see into the future since 2017.
Ooh.
I'm your producer, Rob Diesendorf, here with Sean Brady and Scott Johnson, two fantasy football rivals that have been sabotaging each other for years, but they decided to come together to help you see what is going to happen a week ahead of the time when I learn how to speak English.
We have a crystal ball we're looking into right now.
Heck yeah.
What do you guys see in your crystal ball?
I see some more wonky games. That's what I see. I see
Yeah.
some crazy scores coming out of this week because there's a lot of games that can go either way. And whenever that's the case, you're probably going to have some wonky things happen.
I see, hopefully, more than one win out of my 5 teams. That's what
Scott's going to go fucking 5-0 and still be upset about it.
I still would be, honestly. 6-4 doesn't sound that great overall. Oh, God. So we're looking at Week 2 preview here. Just released our Week 1 recap. Hope you enjoyed it, but we're going to get into some spicy game matchups here. We'll get into what we're going to talk about next.
Liv Moss.
All right, so we're going to split up the game previews into a few different sections. First section, games of the week contenders, and guess what we're going to do? We're going to do it in strictly Liv Moss style here. Crunchwrap Supreme games. It's the top games. It's the top thing in the menu. You know it is. Everyone gets it and likes it. There's no question about that, right?
Not at all. None whatsoever for me.
So these are the Crunchwrap Supreme games for Week 2. So let's get into it. Saints at Rams is the first game of the week contender here. Saints play all the regulars. Kamara, top play this week against a Rams defense that pretty much got thrashed by Christian McCaffrey last week. So
Yes.
it's pretty easy to say Kamara's a top play. But Jared Cook looks like a solid number 2 target. Traquan Smith had a pretty good game this past Monday against the Texans. So not a bad pickup there if you're looking for a deep play or DFS league here or play. Rams, the only question I have here is, are there too many targets for any of them to be consistent producers? Brandon Cooks almost feels like the odd man out right now since he's so one-dimensional. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are more of the move the chains guys. Brandon Cooks is the guy that takes the top off defenses, but I don't know. I don't know how to feel about these guys. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I actually own Woods and Kupp on 2 of my 3 teams. Like, I just start them together. And
That's awesome.
I like having both of them, but they do have a little bit more of a limited ceiling as opposed to Cooks, because Cooks is the guy that'll take the top off. I don't see Tyler Higbee scoring a touchdown every week, so
Right.
I think there will be a little bit more production to be had. I don't think Malcolm Brown will score 2 touchdowns a week either, for example. And it looks like Gurley's kind of taking a little bit more of a back seat. So I think I would go full steam ahead on all 3 of these guys. I think you have to start them if you drafted them, but I just am a little bit irrational when it comes to the Rams anyway. Clearly, I own and start Woods and Kupp on 2 of my teams. So a little overexposed there, but I'm not too upset about it.
Can we just talk about how Saints and Rams, this is the NFC Championship game last year?
I can't believe it's coming back so quickly. Like,
Yeah, they know what they're doing.
Like, the Saints are going to be absolutely livid to go to LA and play this game, and I think it's going to be really fun.
I'm so jazzed up about it.
This is like the Doritos Locos Taco that they just make 2 minutes before you they make it as you get there. There's no question that it was freshly made, and it's the top Crunchwrap Supreme in the crop right there.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the line. We're going to do that for the games of the week moving forward. So the line we have here is New Orleans Saints at Los Angeles Rams -3.
I mean, I would say it's Drew Brees outdoors, but it's like in sunny Los Angeles, so I don't think it really matters that much.
Yeah.
The Rams got all they could handle with Carolina. The only question I have is I don't know if the Saints are that much better than Carolina. So, they're obviously a good team. This is going to be a great game. I would just say the Rams at home, I think they have so many I mean, it's like asking me to pick between my 2 future children right here.
I'll throw something in here. The Rams lost. Last year, the Rams won. They had a winning record. I think it was 5-1 or 6-1 in games decided by 1 touchdown or less. which is highly unsustainable and hasn't really been done in the history of the NFL. I feel like this is going to be a close game, like it kind of was last year. It's back and forth. Feels like the Saints have enough firepower and grit to get past them, even away, even at the Rams. And I'm going to take New Orleans to win and then cover.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, they definitely have the juice to get it done. If I'm gambling my own money, I'm staying away from this game. I'm just watching as a fan.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Birds. The Eagles at the Falcons.
Battle of the Birds.
The Eagles they were the tale of two halves last week. I was getting really worried watching them let Washington pounce on them to an early lead, and then they just dominated that second half. Deshaun Jackson is back. He's back in Philly, and he's back to being a fantasy factor. Alshon Jeffrey is maybe a sell-high candidate. He had 2 touchdowns, and clearly is one of their go-to guys, but I feel like if Deshaun Jackson is for real and stays healthy, I mean, there's definitely a cap on the production that he can have as far as yardage goes. Ertz, I think, is a buy low because Wentz looked out of this world. Like, he's back. And as far as an offense goes, I love that. But I feel like Jeffrey might be the one that gets squeezed out a touch, especially when the running game gets going. On the Falcons side, there's a lot to be desired here. I'm just straight up regretting my Devonta Freeman draft pick
Me too.
in the 3rd round. And, it's a wait and see, and you can't really afford to not play him, but it was not a good start. And he looked terrible. The whole offense looked terrible, honestly. I feel like Austin Hooper's really the only guy that looked good. Maybe Ridley. Ridley had a pretty solid game. But I really need to see something. Like, Dirk Cotter, can you just make something happen here? Like, your personnel is now better than it was in Tampa Bay last year, and you're still underwhelming me.
Yeah, seriously.
And I'm not excited about it. As far as the line goes, I'm taking the Eagles all effing day. I think they're going to kill the Falcons this week.
Actually, it looks like early bet here. It's even, so it's a pick 'em, and that's not even
day.
like that's insane. Eagles.
Yeah.
That's like the dumbest. Yeah, give me the Eagles. Seahawks at Steelers. So last year this would have been a good game, but after watching the Steelers put up 3 points on a stacked, albeit stacked New England team on Sunday night, this looks like a terrible game now. I think the Seahawks are going to crush them, but we'll get to that in a second. On the Seahawks side, Russ Wilson will get his. It doesn't matter what weapons you take away from this guy; he's still going to produce. DK Metcalf, pretty solid in his first game with.
And he looks so good.
He looks
just like
awesome.
As far as like just even how he physically looks, he's just a freak of nature.
Yep. And honestly, number 14, that's like it just fits him. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's not a number 80. He's a number 14. Chris Carson, this guy's the fucking man.
Yeah.
What a beast. 2 touchdowns.
You're a big Carson guy.
Oh, I love this guy. He has a chip on the shoulder, late round draft pick a couple years ago. They take Rashad Penny in the first round, and he still produces way more than him. So, the only thing I will say is the Patriots just thrashed the Steelers, but Sony Michel, who I liken the most to Chris Carson, had a whopping 15 carries for 14 yards because they pretty much knew that every time Sony Michel was on the field, they were going to run it in a power formation. So Chris Carson, not that he's one-dimensional, he still catches it out of the backfield, and Schottenheimer wants to get him the ball in space and have 50 catches, but it's not as natural to him as CJ Procise or whoever else is on that team. So J.D. McKissick a couple years ago. I would temper a little bit with Chris Carson, especially at the Steelers. DK Metcalf is a solid DFS play. Steelers side, who the hell is catching the ball besides Juju Smith-Schuster? As anyone's guess right now. And the Seahawks defense is better than we originally thought with Clowney there now, just putting some pressure on. So I would just try to stay away from any pass catcher with the Steelers and even Big Ben in this game. It's anyone's guess who's going to catch it. Vance McDonald's a dart throw here. Tyler Eifert last week had 5 catches against the Seahawks, but I don't know. You tell me.
Are the Steelers going to go 0-2 here? I think it's definitely in play, even though they're at home. I mean, I just did not see enough in that Week 1 game against New England, and obviously it's New England. It's kind of like they're the older cousin that comes over and beats them up every once in a while. But
yeah.
Like, this is just, I mean, I don't see them clawing their way out of this unless I do think James Conner needs to get more involved. I think they need to get him the ball more. I think that's the key to unlocking their offense. And Hopefully they do it because that can be. It's the NFL is more fun when they're a good team. So I don't even know what the line is, but to me, I think the Seahawks, as long as they are getting some points, I'm taking the Seahawks even on the road.
Seattle Seahawks at Pittsburgh Steelers -4.5.
The Seahawks are favored.
The Steelers are.
Oh my God! Give me the road dog there all day.
Yeah, not even close. Yep.
All right, we got the Vikings at the Packers, the bitter NFC North rivalry, and the tale of two games. The Vikings just dispatched the Falcons with ease last week. Dalvin Cook is back, albeit with a tougher matchup this week. I think Alexander Mattison looked spectacular. He actually looks exactly like Dalvin Cook. Like,
yeah, he does.
You can't tell them apart when they're on the field, which is
Wow.
a great look for Mattison. So he's definitely one of those handcuffs that like you want to snap up and hold on to just because he looked so effective. And it just goes back to that running game, right? That Gary Kubiak running game, it goes all the way back to like the pre-Clinton Portis days in Washington. Like if a solid running back is in that scheme, they're going to be effective.
Yep.
Sign me up for Dalvin Cook for the rest of the year. The passing game obviously will get more volume in a game like this where they're going to be closer and they won't have a game script where they're just trying to run the clock out. But I'm definitely feeling this Vikings offense. I think they've been finally aligned and tuned perfectly where maybe they won't pass the ball as much to the two wide receivers, but they're going to still do that enough, and then Dalvin Cook is the focal point. I think that's a really solid adjustment for them, and I like them on the road against the Packers. The Packers' offense was not good at all in Week 1 against the Bears. I mean, obviously it's the Bears, but the Vikings are no small task either. Aaron Rodgers, I mean, I'm not going to be the first one to throw dirt on his grave, but I mean, he did not look good, and we need him to be better because we need Devontae Adams to go off. We need Aaron Jones to have open running lanes. So the way things are going, I think the Vikings will probably still be underdogs on the road, and I really like the direction they're headed. I think anything like over 3 points for them, and I'm taking that all day.
It's Packers -3. I'm taking the Vikings as well. A lot of road teams we're taking here. Let's move on quickly to the Doritos Locos Tacos. Properly hyped, but missing some clout games. So these aren't the Crunchwrap Supreme games. They're good, but there's just like something missing.
Something missing there.
There's something missing. Yeah, it's good like every now and then, but you're not getting the full variety of a Crunchwrap Supreme here. But the first game we got Bears at Broncos. Listen, Bears offense was abysmal last week. It doesn't get much better in Mile High in what should be a stout defense. We're not sure on how the Broncos do. We're recording this pretty early this week, so we don't know how good the defense is going to be. But typically, a well-coached defense like Vic Fangio's on Vic Fangio's side, at home, Mile High, against an offense that has a quarterback that only does his first read, and that's about it. It doesn't bode well for that offense. So this isn't the week to figure out the running back touches. I think David Montgomery, if anything, they're going to give him more and more work as they go. But I would kind of stay away from the Bears offense and the Broncos offense at this point. Broncos defense is still a good play. Actually, a really good play this week.
I would say these are two teams that if they had legitimate quarterbacks would be Super Bowl contenders. They're like, they might have some small holes elsewhere. But I mean, the Bears are literally one quarterback away from being a Super Bowl favorite, or at least a contender. They'd be up there with like the Kansas Cities of the world. And the Broncos, the same deal. Like their defense is legit, and they have two young, promising running backs. They have Emmanuel Sanders, who somehow is still hanging on in the league, and they have some juice in the rest of that wide receiver core. But they both these teams need a quarterback, so I don't even know if I'll watch this game because it's just going to be so ugly at a point. I don't want to see Flacco against Trubisky any which way on my television screen. So no thanks. I'd much rather tune into the Browns at the Jets because the two bandwagons that came just kind of crashing down to the ground. The Browns obviously had a lot more followers on it than we did, but we were in the same boat. We were both very optimistic heading into the year. We got young second-year quarterbacks that have some promise, especially after last year. We got some running backs that are drafted in the first and second round. We got big-time. Well, they have big-time receivers. We have some guys that might have been, kind of sleepery. But we both lost to teams that I don't even think are that good. And I'm really excited to see how this game goes this week because honestly, if we lose this game, it's going to be another year of I don't have to worry about the Jets every week.
Yep.
Because you can't go 0-2 in this AFC, especially when you're probably penciling in 2 losses to the Patriots in divisional games and then expect to make the playoffs. So this is put up or shut up time, and it's only week 2. So to me, fantasy-wise, you still have to start all the Browns you got. Bell was awesome for the Jets. He was kind of the lone bright spot outside of Jameson Crowder. So I think those 2 guys, I definitely would play Bell, obviously, but I think Crowder could be a flex guy because he's going to catch the ball a ton. He had 14 catches this week, and he's very quickly becoming Sam Darnold's favorite target. Outside of that, I mean, this game is just going to be a really fun NFL game. So this is really the Doritos Locos Taco that, just, again, it was freshly made. Like, this is almost in that Crunchwrap Supreme territory. Had we both won last week, we probably would be talking about it up there.
Yeah, that's the Cool Ranch one. The first one was the what's the other one?
The nacho cheese.
Nacho cheese. Yeah. Let's talk about light but sneaky good games. Spicy potato taco.
Oh,
games
yeah.
Of the week.
Gotta
Cardinals at Ravens is the first one. Kyler Murray honestly thought he was going to suck the whole first game, but he really turned around in the second half and showed a lot of promise. First thing I want to say though is he got about 3 or 4 balls batted down by the defensive line, and I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure the announcers were like, "Oh, that's tough." The defense swatted it down. And didn't mention that he's 5'9", and of course he's going to get it swatted down. This is going to happen every week. This is going to be an every week occurrence for him. I'm just saying. But looks like an okay fantasy option. I would caution against him this week at the Ravens. It's a tough matchup, and not that we put too much stock in it, but the Dolphins quarterbacks did not do a thing. Larry Fitzgerald, though, absolute machine. This guy's a unit, and plug him in. He's a flex play at this point. And Ravens on the other side, Lamar Jackson. That was insane.
It was.
And ride the high. Same with Hollywood Brown. Just ride the high. There's nothing else I can say about that.
Hollywood Brown will be featured in my flex lineup on at least one of my teams. I'm very excited about that. And one quick thing about Larry Fitzgerald, this guy's got 16,000 receiving yards in his career, and he's still lighting up teams in week 1 in 2019. Hats off to that guy. He's one of my favorite players in the league. He's just such a great guy, great player. And we don't talk about him nearly enough, because he hasn't really been a frontline fantasy asset so far in the last couple of years. But, I mean, he's going to have weeks like this, especially with the young quarterback that can clearly spray the ball around when he needs to. This is a fun game. Well, another one of those Battle of the Birds games. What would happen if an actual Cardinal took on a Raven? Nobody really knows. I guess the Ravens there would be the favorite.
I feel like the Raven would get scrappy and the Cardinal wouldn't stand a chance, I don't think.
And you know what? I think that's pretty similar to what would actually happen in this game as well.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Jaguars at the Texans. One thing that would be, in the wild, that's not a question. The Jaguars are decimating a Texan. We can't handle Jaguars as people out there.
Yeah.
Although Texans are built different, but I digress.
They hit different.
They really do. The Jags, I already wasn't in on them going into the year. Big Nick out indefinitely. It hurts them, but Gardner Minshew had a great week 1. I still would never get cute and start like DJ Chark or Chris Conley, especially only after 1 week of a sample size. But you could pick them up and you could just see what happens. You're probably going to wind up dropping them, like we mentioned earlier in the week. But not really thrilled about the Jags. Never really was, to be honest with you. And side note, Jalen Ramsey is just a terrible human being.
Such a dick.
I hope he hears that too, and I hope he says something about us. That would be incredible. But he's just an awful person. So just throwing that out there. So the karma's just not on their side. Exactly. Not that Tyreek Hill is a model citizen by any stretch. But come on now.
Come on, man.
All right. He better not be doing that to our boy DeAndre Hopkins, the absolute unquestioned wide receiver 1 in fantasy football, absolute stud. 2 touchdowns and counting in this game that we're currently watching while we record. So you start him regardless of matchup, especially given how Sammy Watkins just torched the Jaguars' pass defense. It's a no-brainer. And I think Carlos Hyde is a really interesting, albeit maybe low-key pickup, because we all kind of know Duke Johnson's not the guy that's going to carry the ball 20 times a game. And if the Texans jump out on somebody, kind of like, what happened against the Jags last week when the Chiefs did it, Carlos Hyde might touch the ball a lot. So he's a guy I'm definitely intrigued by. And one last thing, our Live Moss gambling tip of the week. This is a no-brainer, but any possible way you can bet against the Miami Dolphins in any stretch with any funds, with your life, with your right arm, whatever you're getting back, do it, because they have no interest in winning football games anytime soon, and they apparently don't even want to keep it close. So take the points, bet against them, and do it without shame.
Early indications: Patriots minus 16. So
I'll take those odds all effing day. The Patriots just beat the Steelers by more than that. There's no chance that Miami is within 25 points of the Patriots this week.
Nice. Put it on. Mark that down. Write it down.
I'm partially doing that so that we jinx it, but it's all good.
Live on. Back by popular demand. Would you rather? I love this segment, to be honest with you.
Me too.
So it just works. So week 2, would you rather? We're going to do 2 per position. So let's start into it with quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins at Packers or Matt Ryan versus the Eagles. What are you going with, John?
Ooh, this is tough. The only reason I would lean Matt Ryan here is because he's at home. But like I said earlier, I think the Eagles are just going to absolutely eviscerate the Falcons this week. I kind of like Kirk Cousins throwing more than 10 pass attempts this week. So I would say Kirk Cousins, even though he's a lot less of a highly touted guy, and he's probably available on your waiver wire. I think he's not the worst start in the world right here, and it's just another testament to why you don't need to draft a quarterback early. So Kirk Cousins, and I'm almost surprised to hear myself say that, but that's the way that I would go this week.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Kirk Cousins too. I mean, the rushing touchdown last week was a little fluky, but it's gonna be a shootout. I feel like the Packers and Vikings. It always is. Next one, Baker Mayfield at the Jets or Kyler Murray at Ravens.
This is almost no question for me. I'm taking Baker Mayfield against the Jets. We just let Josh Allen have his way with us in the fourth quarter, and Baker Mayfield's a lot better than Josh Allen, and Odell Beckham's a lot better than John Brown. The fact that I am probably gonna have to watch Odell Beckham run routes against Tremaine Johnson this week is not fun. So Baker Mayfield, I would take him all day over Kyler.
Interestingly enough, I think the good reason why we put this in, Jets had 4 turnovers of Josh Allen in the first half, right? And then Josh Allen turned it around on us. He salvaged his day with his rushing, but he still had 4 turnovers. Baker Mayfield just had 3 interceptions last week and hurt his wrist. So food for thought. Kyler Murray at the Ravens. You have to figure the Ravens are going to be up early and often in this game, just like they were with the Dolphins, and Murray will have to play a lot of catch up. And they don't have as many pass rushers as they had last year. So I think it's actually more up in the air than we maybe think. I after last week, I'm having a lot of trouble wrapping my brain around keeping on starting Baker Mayfield. I know it's not, we can't overreact, but not saying I would start Kyler Murray over him, but I think it's food for thought. I think I would still go Baker, but just very, very slightly at this point, which I never thought I would say.
Ooh, okay, getting a little close there. Let's go now to a guy that is firmly on our shit list, despite how good he might play every week. Leonard Fournette at the Texans or Aaron Jones versus the Vikings. Who are you going with, Scott?
Yeah, Lenny Fournette at the Texans or Aaron Jones. I'm still going to go Aaron Jones. Rough week 1. I just can't go Leonard Fournette. I mean, he is that team. He is that offense. It's just for that sole reason. Aaron Jones is still a running back 2. Leonard Fournette, I guess, is a running back 2. I don't really know. And catches it more than we probably think. And this is a tough divisional game, but I'm still going to go Aaron Jones in their divisional game at home.
Yeah, stick to your guns. Don't get tempted by Lenny over there. Let's look at David Montgomery at the Broncos or Miles Sanders at the Falcons. So a pair of rookies that probably should get the ball a little bit more than they do.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I don't know. This is a really tough one. Miles Sanders got more work than David Montgomery, if I remember correctly, and I have to think that against the Falcons they're going to give the ball less to Darren Sproles. It just feels like his week 1 was not fluky, but I don't know why you give the ball 10 times to Darren Sproles in a week, and Jordan Howard didn't do anything with his touches. So I'll just go Miles Sanders. Just a gut feeling here.
Alrighty.
Wide receiver, Larry Fitzgerald at the Ravens or Hollywood Brown versus the Cardinals.
Oh, yes. I would start either one of these guys in my flex spot, but you can't argue with Hollywood Brown right now. I feel like, obviously, there's a very undefined floor that might be a big donut, but, I mean, the guy ended the game. I understand it's Miami. He ended the game within 5 minutes of it starting. Like, he single-handedly put them away and sent them packing back to the bus, to the point where some of those guys wanted to quit and sought a trade after the game. Obviously, that says a lot more about the Dolphins than it does about Hollywood Brown, but I mean, he's a big part of that as well. So I'm
Next
going
one is, so you're going to Hollywood Brown?
I am.
I like that. I agree with that. Jamison Crowder versus the Browns or Jarvis Landry at the Jets. Another couple of guys facing off against each other.
I'm going with Jarvis. Again, I think our cornerbacks are terrible. I think the Jets...
They're so bad.
I think the Jets cornerbacks are a low-key thing you can exploit week in and week out in fantasy football. I think the Browns corners are pretty solid. Denzel Ward is really, really good. And we are just awful. Like, we have... if you throw it across the middle, we're going to be just fine because we have maybe one of the top 5 safety tandems in the league. But our cornerbacks might be in the bottom 5 in the league.
I think they're the worst.
I can't think of another team with worse corners than us.
Off the top of my head, maybe the Bucks, because I don't know any of them.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe we're the second worst. Yeah, I'm gonna go. Yeah, no, you know what? I'm gonna go Crowder. I think he's not gonna get 14 catches again every week, but I feel like he can get like a solid 6 or 8 catches, 6 to 8. And Jarvis Landry only got 4 last week, so and I feel like OBJ is gonna explode against the Jets. Little homecoming.
Let's take a look at O.J. Howard at the Panthers or Delaney Walker against the Colts. Delaney Walker, the ageless wonder, had a good week 1.
Yeah, I love it. Home game, Delaney Walker versus the Colts, divisional game. I'm taking Walker. I love the fact that he came back from his injury last season to 2 touchdowns in week 1 against the Browns. I just love it. O.J. Howard. I need to see it another week for him for me to have confidence.
Okay, I personally would go O.J. Howard there just because I think you drafted him so much earlier.
True.
But, Delaney Walker, he was on my first championship-winning team, so I have a soft spot for him. This one's going to ruffle some feathers down here. T.J. Hawkinson against the Chargers, the rookie, or David Njoku at the Jets. Who are you going with out of those two?
Dude, I'm going with Hawkinson. Never thought I would say that either, but David Njoku at the Jets, it feels like OBJ is going to go off on the Jets just because Trumaine Johnson is probably the worst number 1 cornerback in the league. Sorry, no offense, but
no, he definitely is.
I think you are. T.J. Hawkinson over 100 yards against the Lions. Chargers. Derwin James is still out, so I'll take Hawkinson.
Okay, I think I agree with you on that one because he might be their offense, and that's always good when you have someone's entire offense.
Yeah, Kenny Galladay and T.J. Hawkinson are the guys there.
He's a little kittleish to me right now.
He is a little kittleish, yeah.
He even kind of looks like him.
I love it. So let's go into a couple other segments. Flex Friday, this is just a reminder. Flex Friday, we have it every Friday. We do it every week. And we're going to be on our Instagram story, putting those flex guys in the ether. So ask us questions throughout the week that you want on Flex Friday. Another section, dumpster diving. Sean, you want to go into what we're doing here?
Okay, so I actually perfected this. No one will have a better dumpster dive than I did this past week. What I did was I drafted Tony Pollard in our Hoboken League because the Zeke contract had not yet been signed. And as it got closer to kickoff, I kind of realized I don't need this guy on my team. It's kind of a wasted space. So I took a look at the waivers. This is way past when people started picking guys up, obviously. And I just saw Hollywood Brown sitting there, amongst the rubble, gleaming at me, and I just picked him up. Dropped Tony Pollard, picked up Hollywood Brown, and that to me is the essence of dumpster diving. You're looking at moves that no one else sees coming, and you're kind of taking chances, and you don't have to necessarily make this move on a Tuesday night into a Wednesday, which is the typical waiver period. So with that being said, the classic dumpster dive is something you do on Sunday morning that helps you win that week and beyond, and obviously, when you pick something out of the trash, buyer beware. But Ryan Fitzpatrick is that guy this week for me. He's he's giving me a seductive glare because they're going to be playing catch-up a lot against the Patriots, and I know they just got killed. I know I just told you to bet against them, but it also wouldn't shock me if Ryan Fitzpatrick puts up huge numbers this week.
Yeah, I don't hate it. And Josh Rosen, like, I think they probably saw enough of him in week 1. It was a brutal showing already. Pick up Patriots defense at the Fins. Having said that, like, they should have a pretty good, solid showing. I think it's going to be both, like, right? I think the Patriots defense is going to I think the Patriots are going to be up early and often, and Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to play a lot of catch-up. It doesn't mean that he can't have a lot of points if the Patriots defense has a good game.
Right, exactly.
Could be the run game, whatever. And then Chiefs defense, which is a dumpster fire last year, they're playing at the Raiders. So, again, this is a away game. It's kind of tough to bet with. But Chiefs defense, Raiders just lost Antonio Brown, so another thing. And then Josh Lambo, Jags kicker. You have to think this offense, yes, it's geared to running the football, and they lost a lot of they lost Nick Foles, but that only bodes well for the kicker in terms of maybe drives will stall and they'll get more free field goals. And they're going to be playing catch-up all season, too. So, it's another thing.
One other guy I'll throw out there, Jeff Wilson Jr. or Raheem Mostert. Either one of these guys on the 49ers. The 49ers running back depth chart is getting thinner by the day.
Love that.
And we all remember the Jeff Wilson Jr. hype train that happened at the end of last year. So if one of those, just do your homework, see which guy seems to be the backup, because I doubt we're going to get some clarification anytime early this week, but check it closer to game time and just pick that guy up, because Breida is not necessarily a model of health, and if he goes down, that team is going to put up points regardless. We saw it last year with Nick Mullins, a quarterback. So just get a piece of that backfield if you can.
And that does it for Week 2 preview. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the how we're doing it this year. Doing 2 episodes a week. Give your UQDs a little bit more
content,
ear time of us.
And thanks for stopping by. World.
Well, see you later, world.
Live Moss.
See you later, world. Don't forget to tune into the Instagram story today.
And buy some Taco Bell. And tell them that they need to pay our sponsorship fees because they have yet to write us a check.
They're going to send that check, and they never did.